everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody could please rise. Thank you again for coming. This is our fourth time hosting the Candidate Forum, and it's an event I really look forward to and a great opportunity for the community to learn more about the candidates running for Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, and Board of Finance. This year we were also asked to include the candidates for Town Clerk, so they will also have the opportunity to come up and give a brief introduction. Before I turn the mic over to the students, which they know I can't wait to do, I'd like to introduce the other members, the adult members of the Youth Commission. Just raise your hand. Ron Jaffe, Ben Bogus, I don't see Liam, but Liam Mania, and Christina Zimmerman could not be here tonight. I have a few notes. First, this is primarily an event for Brookfield's youth to hear from the candidates about issues of concern to them. The high school students were given the opportunity to find input, and the Youth Commission has worked to consolidate that input into tonight's questions. None of the candidates were given the questions ahead of time. They will all hear the student-created questions for the first time tonight. As an important reminder, this is a public meeting. It is primarily for Brookfield's youth to hear about the candidates. We appreciate everyone for coming, but there will not be a chance to ask questions at the end. Also want to just point out, this is not a debate. There will not be rebuttal time. Everybody has just time to answer the questions. We want to just hear more about you. As always, I am extremely proud of our students on the Youth Commission. I'm sure, as you'll see in a few moments, they are a very impressive group of young adults. Their dedication, time, and contribution are something the community should both note and celebrate. That's it. I'm going to turn it over to our student members.
Thank you. Hi, we are student members of the Brookfield Youth Commission. My name is Francesco Carr. I've been a part of the Youth Commission for about 4 months now, and I am a junior in high school at Brookfield.
Hi, I'm Annabella. I've been a part of the Youth Commission for 4 months as well, and I'm a sophomore at Brookfield High School.
Hi, my name's Alice. I've been on the Youth Commission for 6 or 7 months now, and I am a junior.
Hi, I'm Samarth. I've been on the Youth Commission for about 2 years now, and I am a senior in Brookfield High School.
Hi, my name is Evan Lucas. I've been on the Youth Commission for about, I think, 4 years now, and I'm a senior at Brookfield High School.
Hi, my name is Julia Magner. I'm a senior here at Brookfield High School, and I've been on the Youth Commission for 3 years. Just to kick us off on a little background information, the Youth Commission is a municipal youth advocacy group. We have organized several civic and extracurricular events in order to promote the concerns of the youth in our community. Our mission is to promote civic involvement and professional interest among young people while providing them a space to participate in government. Ultimately, we help to make sure their voices are included in town and school decisions. So now I'll pass it off to Evan.
So candidates for each board will be invited to the stage in groups, and so that will start with the candidates for town clerk, and they will both be given a brief introduction, and then we will ask the candidates for the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Education, and the Board of Finance to come up here one group at a time.
We'll ask 2 questions to candidates of each board. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Since this is not a debate, there will be no rebuttal time. This event is about learning what each candidate's vision for Brookfield includes. We'd like to thank the candidates and the audience for attending and urge everyone to listen, learn, and participate respectfully.
Now we would like to invite the 2 candidates for town clerk to come up and do a brief introduction.
Good evening, guys. It's so good to see all of you here tonight.
I want to say a special thank you to the Youth Commission for organizing this, to Marnie, to parents, students, service dogs, and all who are here tonight. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Phoebe Holmes, and I'm a candidate on the ballot for town clerk. I am also the interim town clerk right now, and this is a really, really important job. And I'm sure you're all wondering what a town clerk does, and we are record keepers for the town. And primarily what we keep are land use records for the town. They're stored on archival paper in a fireproof vault, and our earliest record dates back to 1788. That's volume 1. We have 846 books in our vault that we store. So in there we keep deeds, contracts, mortgages. We work closely with title searchers, with lawyers. It's a great job, really a lot of interface with the public. And a town clerk needs to be organized, good at multitasking, have a sense for confidentiality and safeguarding privacy. It's a great job, and I'm really enjoying it so far. About me, I've lived in Brookfield for 12 years. I have an 11-year-old son, Owen, and he is at Wiskineer. My husband and I own a small business, Holmes Renovations. It's renovations firms. We do kitchens and bathrooms and decks. And about me, I have a degree in education and also political science, and I've served on the Zoning Commission for 5 years now. So thank you to everyone for coming out tonight.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeffrey Murphy, and I'm running for town clerk because Brookfield deserves someone who is both a proven administrator and a dedicated leader. I'll bring both of those to this essential office. My qualifications come from real-world experience at Bank of America and BMW of Richfield, and now Diversified Printing Solutions. I know how to manage a complex office, think critically, solve problems, and deliver results. I will lead with professionalism and respect for the staff and systems that are already in place. To prepare for this office, I've begun building a network of current and former town clerks for a better understanding of the role, to learn the best practices, and to have a strong support system in place. Once elected, I'll pursue the designation as a certified Connecticut town clerk because Brookfield deserves someone prepared for the job and ready to excel at it. Above all, integrity matters. My character is known by those who have worked closely with me through the years, from my Eagle Scout advisor to my manager at Bank of America and colleagues at BMW of Richfield. I encourage you to read both of our patch articles and make a decision on who you think the best candidate would be to be Brookfield's next town clerk. Vote 3B for Jeffrey E. Murphy.
We would now like to invite the Board of Selectmen to come up and take your seats.
Good evening. Thank you to the Youth Commission for hosting this event. It's great to see young people here tonight who care about our community. My name is Carl Hinger. I'm running for First Selectman, and I'm 31 years old, which means I've heard my fair share of "you're too young" or "you don't have enough experience." People often say our generation is the future. But the truth is, we are not the future. We are the present. We're living through challenges right now. We're the ones juggling student loans, starting careers, starting families, trying to battle back against expanding apartment complexes throughout Brookfield that wish to turn us into a generation of renters and serfs, and denying us of owning property. But we have the energy, the ideas, and the wisdom to make change. When others say young people can't lead, I think back to our country's founders, many in their 20s and 30s, that were told they didn't have the experience of kings. But they believed that government belongs to the people, not to those who cling to power. That's the same spirit that drives me now, because Brookfield deserves leadership that listens, that works hard, and that plans not just for our generation, but for the next. Brookfield deserves to be its best. I've spent the past 4 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, balancing fairness and accountability. In my professional life, I manage millions of dollars in inventory for a global corporation, and I know what it takes to keep things running efficiently and responsibly. So to the young people here tonight, no matter your age, race, gender, or your background, don't let anyone tell you that you need to wait your turn. Your voice matters now. You don't need a title. You don't need permission. You can shape the direction of your town, your state, and your country today. Because Brookfield does not need a monarch. In Brookfield, there are no kings. Brookfield needs leadership with fresh energy and forward thinking. Brookfield needs people who care. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Dunn. I'm running for First Selectman. I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 10 years. 8 of those as First Selectman. My experience and qualifications are as the Vice President and Group Executive at JP Morgan, managing billions of dollars in assets for our clients. I was a Group Executive for the Western Hemisphere. I've managed hundreds of people. I've managed budgets in the $250 to $300 million range. I have done budgeting. I have done bonding. I have done every single thing that you need to do to run a town. Running a town is not an easy job. And one of the reasons is because you have 17,532 bosses. Every single person in town is our boss. Every single person in town gets to be heard. And I hear a lot of them. And people stop by my office all the time. We try to work, and I say this to everyone who comes to town to work on a board or a commission. The minute you cross the doors at Town Hall, don't think of yourself as a Republican or a Democrat. Think of yourself as a Brookfielder and do what's right for Brookfield. Over the last 10 years, we have made massive improvements in our finances, in our borrowing. We've done a new school. We're working according to plan on a new police station and a community center. And we have to do those things, but we have to make them affordable for everyone. Regarding development, most of the projects you're seeing being developed right now were approved well before anybody in this room knew about it. The one behind Dollar General was approved 14 years ago. Many of these projects, developers do have a right to develop, but what you want to do is control it. So I've gotten 2 moratoriums on 830G. We put in a moratorium on multifamily housing because we want to make sure what we build in the future matches what our residents want. And you get that by listening to your residents. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Donnelly, and I am the 2025 Republican nominee for Selectman here in Brookfield, and I also graduated from this very high school in 1984. And wow, do I feel really old. It's a great honor to serve everyone in public service. There's a great sense of pride and accomplishment in selflessly giving back to your community and country that we all love and cherish. You get a wonderful sense of teamwork and friendship working with people to help other people. When you're younger, you think about career, making a living, and having a family. When you get older, you think about family, giving back to your community, and time. I encourage all of you to think about volunteering for some form of public service. It's very rewarding to your community, to your country, and to your heart. I'm a husband and a father of 3 beautiful children who all went through our Brookfield public school system. I'm a Brookfield resident of 44 years, and like I said, I graduated here in 1984. I served in the Connecticut Army National Guard from 1983 to 89. I was a sergeant, served in the as a communications chief in the 2192nd Field Artillery, and was honorably discharged. I worked as a technician and a service manager with Guardian Alarms from 1983 to 1991. I worked part-time, yes, at Arthur Murray Dance Studio as a teacher and a guest director from 83 to 96. And I started my own security company with my beautiful wife and my best friend, Michelle, in late 1991 to today. I was elected to the Zoning Board of Appeals in 2021, served as vice chairman from 21 to 22, and chairman from 22 till today. I'd like to go over just some of the main issues today. Preserving our small town charm and history by preventing overdevelopment, including maintaining local control over our zoning and ceasing the spread of huge apartment complexes. Promote the American dream, home ownership for families, and invest in the future. Advocate for the lowest possible taxes and fiscal responsible budgets. Promote a thoughtful plan for future utilization of Center School building and the need for a new community center and Parks and Rec. Unwavering support for all our emergency services, police, fire, EMT. Continue our lifelong advocacy for support of all our veterans, and thoughtful and respectful consideration in keeping things affordable for our distinguished seniors. I'm a people person. I really enjoy being with and helping other people no matter who they are and where they're from. I'm not afraid to make tough decisions and stand by those decisions. I'm a fiscal and constitutional conservative and a proud Republican. I would like to respectfully ask for your support for Carl, myself, and the entire team in Ropay.
Good evening. My name is Bob Belden. I'm running for selectman. First, I'd like to take some of my time to thank the Youth Commission. I remember when I was in high school, it was an organization just like this that got me started on public service. And it has stayed with me my entire life, how to get back to our community. So I just urge you guys to keep it up, stay involved, do good things. For those of you who are here and don't know me, I have an Ivy League education. I went to Dartmouth undergraduate in economics and mathematics, and I went to Harvard Business School for my MBA, and then I formed a 42-year career at the IBM Corporation as a vice president for most of that time. So I've had lots of opportunity to manage things, manage people, manage assets. I had trillions of dollars of assets under my wing, manage processes and the like. I'm a proud father of 5, grandfather of 9, and husband to the most wonderful lady in the whole world, so who's here with us tonight. Back when I was in my late 40s, I said, I gotta find a way to give back to our community. And I ran for office for the first time in 2003, and since then, I've served 8 years on the Board of Finance as its chairman for some of that time. I served 8 years on the Board of Education, and now I serve 2 years on the Board of Selectmen. I take giving back to our community really seriously. We're going to talk about issues tonight, so I'm not going to use my time to actually talk about the issues of the day. We'll answer that when the guys ask their questions. But I want to thank you for your support in the past, and I'd like to thank you for your support in this election so I can continue to help the community I love so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So the first question, if you guys would like to answer in the same order you just did or differently. As a member of the Board of Selectmen, how would you prioritize major capital projects for the community, such as a police station or potential community center? And what would your priorities be for the schools?
Yeah, so the way you prioritize large capital projects is by making sure you stagger them out. Each of these projects require bonding tens of millions of dollars in order to get them constructed. So looking into the future about how we can responsibly budget them and make sure that we're not raising taxes exorbitantly in order to pay for them. My top priority is a new police station. I believe that it's been talked about for almost 8 years now, and it's only finally getting planned this year when an ad hoc committee was put together. So I think it's about time that we settle on a plan and present it to the voters in Brookfield. I believe with the costs associated with a new police station based on what Newtown has done with their new police station, we should be able to bond for it within the 27 to 28 or the 28 to 29 fiscal year without causing any massive tax increases. As for my priorities for the school, I believe that our Board of Education needs to focus, of course, first on our youth. We need to make sure that we are focusing on the teachers and not as much focused on hiring endless numbers of administrators. I also think it's important that we spend the town's money improving each of the school structures. We just spent almost $80 million on a new school. It's fantastic, sure. However, the high school has been kind of neglected. Other schools have been kind of neglected. We should stagger that money more efficiently and not have one incredible school and then the students age out of it and go to a high school that has not been improved in over 20 years. So that would be my priority for the schools. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, when I started in office 10 years ago, we did not have a capital plan. We had a 5-year capital plan, but it didn't include everything we needed. So one of the first things we did was create a 10-year capital plan. And that included a new school. And we did that. We got that done. It cost us $78 million, which $63 million was money that we had to borrow for the school. The rest was state grants. At the same time, in doing that 10-year plan, we knew we were going to need a new police station or a rebuild of our existing police station to both meet the law and to meet the needs of the 20th century police department. We've been working on that. The minute Bob and I took office, we started the ad hoc committee to begin to plan that so we can go to a referendum so the residents can vote on it. Unfortunately, the 2 years before I was in office, nothing was done on that, and nothing was done on the community center. We formed those two committees to move this forward. Now, you have to be very careful when you borrow money. You cannot over-borrow. We had $108 million at its peak. We knew it was going to be high because we did spend the most amount of money we've ever spent on a single project, $63 million. We are dropping that by about $8 million a year. The ad hoc police committee is going to come to us with their recommendations by next June. I hope to go to referendum so voters can vote on it in the next November election because that's when we get the most number of voters. And I think the most number of residents should choose that. If we go to referendum and it gets approved, we probably will not borrow the money for at least 1.5 years to 2 years because you have to do all the design, the technical, the architecture, things like that. That takes 12 to 18 months. After that, we would plan a community center. And we have to be careful how we do this. We have a AAA rating, right? And we want to keep that AAA rating. That gives us low costs for our expenses on bonding. For example, on the school, on CLES, we originally planned to have a 4% interest rate, and we got a 2.5%. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have the police, thank you. We do have the police ad hoc committee, and we have the center school ad hoc committee. The number one priority absolutely is a new police department. The original police department of Brookfield was built back in 1987. It does not meet any of the state or federal requirements, codes, or regulations. So we have to do something about it. My running mate Carl and I, Carl at the last debate presented our plan that we came up with in less than 8 months, around 8 months. And it's, I think, a fantastic plan. So we have the center school building, which was left abandoned. We went and toured the center school building. I read the 125-page report, and it was bad then, and it's even worse now. The center school building has 3 structures on it. The center, which was built in 1939, is in the best shape of the 1950s section or the 1990s section. I looked at it up, down, left, right, basement to attic. It's in bad shape, but you might be able to save the center portion of it, the oldest section of it. So here's the plan. We have the police department now in Silver Mine Road, I'll be quick, which is on a 1.5 acre footprint. We're not gonna do anything, and it's up to the people, and it's not a finalized plan, but we're not gonna do anything until we know what we're gonna do with the old building. But we built a beautiful, gorgeous new 21st century police department on the center school property. We try our best, because we both love Brookfield's history and want to preserve it, to save the center structure if you can. That's on a 7.14 acre footprint. You can move that to the east side of the building. So we put that over there, build a brand new police department, and then we have a functional, working police department that just got brand new generators a couple years ago, that we can have a community center, parks and rec. If we save the other building, that could be a beautiful community center as well in the center of Brookfield. But we have dual usage. It's the purpose place to have it. You got all the ball fields there. You've got everything. The premier walking path is there, so it's a great place to have it. Last thing on there, in priorities for the schools, we got to get ball fields in CLES. I don't know how we build a $78 million school without ball fields. Thank you.
I'm very cognizant that these questions came from these guys. So I'm going to turn and address this to you, because this is obviously a point that you want to hear about. Sorry if I turn my side to you guys. I'm going to start with schools. Right? We built a wonderful new elementary school. You guys probably went to Huckleberry Center, and when you were there, when my kids were there, they were starting to fall apart. They were lovely, they got great memories, but we needed a new school in Brookfield. And it was the biggest single building project we ever had. But I gotta tell you, before we finished that, the Board of Education, who I was very proud to serve with, kicked off a 10-year plan. What was in that 10-year plan? It was to fix the roofs, fix the windows, get more light in the schools, modernize the lockers, do all the things that we needed to do to make the middle school and the high school as top-notch as the elementary school. So that is high on the priority list. We talk about the police station versus the community center, but that's been baked into our plan for 4 years now. And we're already in like the 3rd year of starting to do that. And part of that's putting air conditioning in the schools. So we really have to see that through. Past that, the police station is the most important. I would disagree with you on what the location should be, but that's a debate that the public needs to have on that. But I want to turn to the community center. One of the things I've heard over and over and over again is that young parents with little kids don't have a place to go. High school kids who aren't in sports, they need a place to go, a place to do things. We need a place that makes our community. And we put this group in place to start getting some energy behind that, to really find out what people want. And I believe that ought to be in the center of town, right? Because that's what it belongs. So thank you.
Your next question is, we understand that students are able to come to Board of Selectmen meetings, but what would you do in addition to include and promote student input outside of those meetings?
Well, besides coming to the Board of Selectmen meetings, a great way for student input is to be active online, right? That's where a lot of our youth are. I mean, I know I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. We need a social media presence, we need an internet presence. We got to be in the 21st century to engage with our students, to ask them questions, to remind them what's going on. We can have automated texting systems to remind people in town when big votes are, when new meetings are happening. There's plenty of ways to reach out to them besides just going to meeting. We just need to modernize our town hall. We need to modernize our outreach, because for too long we've been stuck in the past. We still remind people about the budget vote with a postcard that goes out. It's 2025. It's time that we move on. We actually use the technology we have available to us. So that is just one of the ways that I believe that we can reach out to our students and make sure that they stay involved, because it's incredibly important that the youth stay involved. And I mean, I know honestly, even when I was in college studying politics, I didn't want to go to town meetings. They're kind of boring, long. what have you. You know, the national politics is always fun and exciting. A lot of the local stuff you tend to forget about. So reminding the youth just what's going on in short blurbs in ways that they don't have to go sit through hour-long meeting, in ways where you can comment and be responded to by the first selectman or by other members on a forum without just having your 2 minutes to speak and the board listens to you and then doesn't give you any feedback on what you actually said. So those are just a couple ideas. Thank you.
Getting student participation is sometimes hard. Last year I was in 2 assemblies here, one for the freshmen and the sophomores and one for the juniors and the seniors, and we had a really good interactive discussion about what is needed in the schools, what students would like to see, what they would like the future to look like for their schools. I told the guy who wanted a casino put in that that was not going to happen. But what I think we should do is engage our students more directly. And I think we should have at least one Board of Selectmen meeting here at the schools at a time that's good for the students. And address that Board of Selectmen meeting to the issues the students want to discuss. Put that on the agenda. And then have a lot of questions and answers. And we'll sit here, I know Bob will, I know I will. We'll answer any question you have about how the town runs, what we're doing, where we're going, what we're trying to do as a town. And I think that would really help to get. I know when I was a kid, I knew nothing about town administration, even though my dad was the controller of the town and my mother had run for office. I just didn't know much about it. But if you want good citizens, you need to engage them, and we should do that. That would be my recommendation. Thank you.
I'm going to start with a compliment to our current first selectman. One thing you can do is you can go right upstairs in the town form of government, and if he's there and our first selectman is there, you can walk in and sit down and you can talk with him. That's the beauty of New England and the selectman form of government. And I'd like to thank you for that, sir, and we'll continue that as well. So besides what Carl and everybody else said, I pretty much concur with them. You're going to do it through emails, you're going to do it through regular snail mail, if anybody still does that anymore. But one of the things that I think that we ought to change is when people come up to the selectmen meeting and they want to speak, they have a time limit on it. And I understand, because I can get a little bit long-winded, people can go long, 3 or 4 minutes long on something. But I'm a firm believer in letting people speak and say what they want for whatever time it takes. If you watch any zoning board of appeals meeting, when somebody comes up, we treat everybody fundamentally fair, honest, and respectful, and we let them speak their piece. That's the way it should be, and I'd like to propose that change once I'm a selectman, just to give people more time to say what they really want. Student importance of it, I think that's it.
Thank you. So, Alan, I've just got to say, they put the time limit on the public speaking for you and me, because we tend to go.
I was shorter on that.
I noticed. I'm going to try and be short as well. Again, I'm going to talk to you guys. This is going to be embarrassing, but in 1971, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was on the youth commission in Wilton, just down the road. You know what the number one question we asked was? That one. How can we have more engagement with students and the leadership of the town? There wasn't an answer then that was easy. There wasn't an answer today that was easy, because it takes both sides to come together. A couple of starting points. The Youth Commission is the number one first step, right, in terms of having adults and youth come together on youth-related matters. That's why it's there, right? It's really important. The only thing I'm going to tell you is be loud, be vocal, right, and have your voice heard, because it's very powerful. Secondly, we have a youth contact on our Board of Education. And I always urge that youth contact that let the voice of all the kids in the school be funneled through you. And if you think you need to have the youth come, what's going to be most important to our young people is what's going on in the schools, right? So that's a great forum to get up there and engage and do that. Lastly, take advantage of every opportunity we have to just sit down and talk to people. I had a great discussion with a couple of folks who sat down with me out in front of the polling place. Some of you guys were there. We had a great conversation on a lot of different things, and it was fabulous. So I'm that way. I think most of the people in public service I know are that way because that's why we're there. And so I just urge you to take advantage of those, and I'm going to urge all my fellow candidates that we ought to keep finding those ways to reach out.
Thank you to our Board of Selectmen candidates. Round of applause. With that, we would like to invite our Board of Education candidates to come up and introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the Youth Commission. I really value and we want to hear your opinions. I'm always looking for ways for your voice to be heard and always ready to be your advocate. It's my job to do right by you guys, hold the administrators and teachers accountable to ensure that you're getting the best education and that you are college and career ready. You are our future and as elected officials, we need to do right by you. So thank you. Thank you for being leaders and being good role models to your peers. My name is Joy Greenstein, and I've been serving on the Board of Education for the past 8 years, and I'm running for another term. I'm in my 25th year of teaching. I'm a literacy specialist, and I teach elementary school children who struggle in reading and writing. I am also the English Language Arts Curriculum Coordinator for my district. I write curriculum, I align standards to instruction, and provide professional development to educators. So this is really important experience that I have in education, and as with my role on the Board of Education. In addition to that, I'm the Union Vice President, and I serve on Negotiations Committee. So this wealth of experience and expertise has really served me well on the Board of Ed. And I'm currently serving, and I have served on many bargaining units, contract negotiations, so my skill set in that area has really been valuable on the Board of Ed. Some of the things I've accomplished on the Board of Ed is I was involved and helped oversee from its inception the Candlewood Lake Elementary School project. As a facilities chair, I have spearheaded the high school boys locker room. I got rid of those god-awful porta-johns outside, and we have beautiful bathrooms to access from the outside, and installed new beautiful bathrooms. Also, as a facility chair, I helped oversee removing the Huckleberry and Wiskaneer portables and the much-needed repairs of roofing, Wiskaneer wall, the bathroom upgrades, and improving our facilities, and trying really hard to advocate for you to beautify our schools. And your committee did that just with getting the lockers, some lockers, sets of lockers pulled out and seating. I wasn't done yet.
Hi, my name is Erin Scalera. I am a proud mom of 2 boys in Brookfield. I have an 8th grader and a senior. I have served on the Board of Ed for 14 months due to a vacancy. And, you know, I started attending meetings 4 years ago when I was having trouble with my children's programming and wanted to see changes. And it's been so rewarding to be able to advocate for children and to try and improve programming. We have a great district. We have great teachers, we have great children, and we just need to get them access to all the tools that they need in order to be successful. So as I started this advocating for special education, it has been a privilege to serve on the Strategic Plan Committee to include our special education population. But even more than that, we have the responsibility to make sure that every child in this district is thriving and has a free and appropriate education. And that's why I'm here. I want to be a voice for parents, for students, for stakeholders, for teachers. And that's it.
All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you to the Youth Commission for having all of us here. Again, I am new to running for a town office. My name is Caroline Coles, running for the Board of Ed. My husband and I moved our blended family here in 2019, right before we had our fourth child. So we have 2 kids in the elementary school, which we've really enjoyed having the new space. My older son did go to center school and Huckleberry and is now at Candlewood Lake. So it's been a great journey for us so far. I was born and raised in Connecticut in a very small town, even smaller than this. My high school only had 35 graduating kids in my class, so it was a very tight-knit community. I learned public service from my mother. She did a lot in the town. She introduced me to working in the food pantry and at the thrift stores and just being an active participant in the community. I moved around for my career in the medical device industry for the last few years, one stop of which was in New York. I was on the board for Meals on Wheels in Newburgh, New York for a couple of years, and that was a great experience. So I'm just looking for an opportunity to give back to the community. The kids are the most important part of our community. They're going to be the future. They're going to be the future in these positions someday. So I want to have a wonderful educational experience for both of my boys in the school system and for everybody's kids. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Andy Correa. I think I came to the first Youth Commission in 2019, and I really enjoyed it, and I've came or watched ever since. I want to thank you all for putting it on. It's probably the most informative forum to really learn about who's running for office because you hear from multiple boards. I moved here in about 18 years ago with a 1-year-old daughter. My wife and I met in college. We both went to a military academy, moved all around the country. We worked in heavy industry. My background is in mechanical engineering and shipbuilding, and then I decided to go back and get my MBA and climbed up the technology chain. I worked in the automotive industry for a while and then moved into technology. When we moved to Vermont, we lived there for about 6 years. I started with IBM. When I started with IBM, I knew I would end up in this area, but I had a cool opportunity to go to Vermont. When we relocated here, we didn't particularly choose Brookfield, but we chose the area. And the reason why we chose Brookfield was by talking to people where were the best schools. This area was the best schools 18 years ago, this town versus neighboring towns. Why I'm running for the Board of Education is, in the past 10 years, the schools have declined. So what we can do as Board of Ed members is advocate for accountability in the schools, for services for our children. I met Erin Scalera through advocating at the Board of Ed because my child is not getting the services they need. If I'm on the Board of Ed, I will fight for every kid to get the programming that they require. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Richard Briggs. I am a 20-year Brookfield resident. I'm a clinical psychologist and an educator and a candidate for the Board of Ed. And I wanted to also repeat thank you to the Commission for your efforts. It's really inspiring what you're doing to help educate voters about the candidates. A little bit about myself. I was a terrible student in elementary school. The teacher said to me, "You never work up to your expectations, to our expectations. You're careless," and I was also mischievous and always in trouble. And that pattern continued until the 8th grade. And that person, you would not want to vote for the Board of Ed, believe me. And at that point, they said, you know, you're not a candidate for college. We're putting you on a different track. So my mother, my advocate, intervened, fought strenuously, and got me into what then was the classical high school in Worcester, Mass, where we lived. I went there. My performance was still erratic, but the teachers there saw enough in me, and teachers throughout my academic career, to help me and support me. And with their support, their help, and their recommendations, and good standard scores on my part, I was accepted to Harvard College. I graduated with honors, and then from there, got a master's degree at the Harvard School of Education. That guy you might vote for. From there, a few years later, I got my clinical psychology PhD at New York University. I feel deeply appreciative of all the help, first of my mother's support and the help of teachers over the life of my academic career. It's been a transformative experience for me, and I've come to know myself in a different way as a result of that. I want every student, whether they're gifted students, average students, or people who are struggling, as I did, to have that same opportunity for a transformational experience in schools. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Morash. I am the lone potato on row C, as my boys like to joke. I am the unaffiliated candidate. 40% of the voters in Brookfield are unaffiliated. That number skews higher as we get younger. And you've got a bunch of people up here, hi everybody at home, telling you all about themselves and what they're going to do, but it's absolutely imperative and clear that in this town, we need to be hearing from the students, because clearly something is wrong when most of the students that are here tonight are standing up here. Your group is for advocacy. I'm not on the board, but I'm going to challenge all 6 of you to be at the board meeting tomorrow night to speak. The problem with that, and again, all of the little steps in government that make it difficult for kids to get involved, back to the question you just asked, is if you show up tomorrow night and you want to talk about a topic that's not on the agenda, you have to wait until the second speaking period, which means you're waiting until 8:30. You're sitting through 90 minutes of absolutely boring stuff just to get 3 minutes to speak. That's wrong. And that's why there are no students here. And that's why the board meetings have a couple of people show up and no students, because who wants to sit through that? If it's not welcoming to you, why are you going to be there? No matter how much you care, every hurdle stops you from getting involved. And if I'm on the board, I want to make sure that we're making choices that benefit kids, not make things easier for the administration. This meeting could have been an AMA. It could have been during your connections on Wednesdays, and people would have all been there. Folks would have been paying attention. They could have been asking questions in the chat. We want to talk about how do we teach to kids, because how I learned is not how you learn. And until everyone on the Board of Ed and in the town realizes that, things aren't going to get better for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Wolowick, and I'm running for the Board of Education as well. I want to thank the Youth Commission for putting on this great event. I was able to watch the last few, and y'all really do a tremendous job each and every time. I'm not from around here originally. I'm actually from South Florida, and for those who are following the NFL these days, I'm a sad sack Miami Dolphins fan, which is pretty pathetic, but it is what it is. I went to college up in New England and then moved to New York City to go to medical school. I became an orthopedic surgeon specializing in spine surgery and practiced for 7 years after all my training was completed. And in that time as an orthopedic surgeon, I learned about what it meant to take care of people, how to listen, and how to recognize and respect adults and especially children with disabilities, both physical and mental, who needed care. And that's something that's always stuck with me. Along the way, I decided to get my MBA and then made the difficult decision to shift over to the business side of things. I joined Stryker, where I specialize in mergers and acquisitions, having done billions of dollars worth of deals that include skills in negotiation, financial management, and working together to solve problems. My family and I moved to Brookfield 5 years ago from New York. I have a wife and 3 children. My 7-year-old is a 2nd grader at CLES, and my 4-year-old, who's in preschool, will be at CLS as well. What I noticed when I moved to Brookfield is that the Board of Education was a sign of division in our community. It was not something that was bringing our community together. And that really struck with me. As I've been out meeting voters over the last few months, I've heard the same thing. The Board of Education is a source of division. We need to fix that. We need to listen to parents, to students, to administrators. We need to learn to cooperate. We need to collaborate. We need to be fiscally responsible, and most importantly, we need to have common sense. And that's what I'll bring to the Board of Ed.
Kicking off our first question, which concerns the new finals policy. In the years after COVID, students were exempted from final exams if they had a grade of 93% or higher in a class. This year, only seniors with a grade of 93% are exempt from finals. What are your thoughts on students being exempt from final exams if students have 93% or above?
So that's a great question, and tomorrow we'll be able to, it's available online now, our test scores are very sad, very poor. So I would encourage this change, or we already implemented this change for our students. We have to do something to help our students who are failing. We are failing our students, all of us, and we have to do something to promote that, to make that change and to make things better for the students. And I think this is something that will help our students and will help them to become college and career ready. Because I've spoken with a lot of recent graduates, and most of them communicate that they did not feel, they're not equipped, they didn't feel ready for college. And if we're not putting them in front of tests at the appropriate times and not getting enough exposure to assessments, then we're not doing our students any justice. So the data speaks for itself. Our test scores are horrendous, and it will be out tomorrow. There will be a presentation at our Board of Ed meeting tomorrow. It's accessible online currently, right now, if you want to go look at that. So although that may not be a popular opinion of the students, I know students that work hard to get that grade, we did speak with administration, we heard the positives and negatives, but I think to do right by you guys, we have to at least make this change to at least help bring our test scores back to acceptable, what we deem as acceptable, and to make sure our kids are ready for college or a career.
To your juniors over there, I'm sorry. But I also agree with Joy. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, taking exams is part of life. You're going to have to do it in college, and I think the more prepared you are at the high school level, when it isn't, it's not as large a proportion of your grade, is good practice. So the administration made this decision, and I'm going to, I stand behind it. There's a reason they're doing it, and I think the more that you guys get out of your comfort zones and take tests. I have a child who is not a great test taker, so he's one that'll chase a carrot and get out of exams all the time. So he will have to sit for them, and I think it's just preparing you guys for the future. So I'm sorry.
So this is an interesting question. I should have asked this when I was in high school. But so first, not being on the board yet, I don't personally know if there's any rules or regulations around the ability to exempt students from testing formally in schools. It sounds like there may have been discussion already in the board. And I'll have to agree with the previous two voices that unfortunately test taking is a critical skill for a lot of students moving on through their educational journey, and even as part of going into industry. I guess I could see the possible exception at the senior level. You're already there at the finish line, but for the rest of the academic years, I think it's important to continue and learn that practice of test taking. Thank you.
So I have a different take. This came up in my house when this change happened, and I look at it through the lens of what I had in high school. So when I was in high school, you had to take all midterms all 4 years. If you had a full year course and you had a 93 or above or an A or above, you could be exempt from the final of the full year course.
I think that makes sense for all students. Because if you did well all year, and you did well in your high stakes test at midterm, and you have a 93 at the end of the year, then you should be rewarded. And it's kind of a mix of both. I can tell you my daughter was in 8th grade during the first year of COVID, and there were not, you didn't have high stake tests for her freshman year. And the first time she took a high stake test was sophomore year. And that was difficult for those kids, and you really need to take them. So I think it's really a balance, and I think it's common sense. If you are doing well all year, you do take midterms, there's no reason why if you have a 93, you shouldn't be able to, not take the test. Thank you.
Well, I understand the rationale for it, as you just described. But I think I'm on the side of saying, and I also, by the way, hate to answer questions in the abstract without being able to, as they say, the devil is in the details. So I don't know the details about this so much, but I'd have to say my answer is probably going to be disappointing too, because I think that kids, part of high school is being exposed to difficult things. Life is not easy, and high school has to include some level of adversity for people. So, and part of that adversity is training for dealing with the anxiety and stress of test taking. It's a value in and of itself. So I think that for seniors who have reached that level, it makes perfect sense, but I would not be in favor of extending that to other grades.
Do any of you feel like you learn anything when you're taking a final? Or are you just cramming in the last 2 days, and everything that you cram in is then gone 2 days later? So it's interesting to listen to the standardized test scores are bad. Do any of you feel like standardized tests show the best of who you are? There you go. So we're talking about you work all year, you get a good grade, and now you have to cram everything back in there just for busy work, because we want to be able to evaluate what we're learning from standardized testing and what our kids are getting in grades. But I would wonder if most people who have an A, a 93 by the end of the year, are also getting an A on their final. But regardless of that, do you feel like you had any say in the policy change? We heard someone say that the administration made the decision, just like the administration made the decision that they weren't going to allow you to use your own laptops this year. The administration makes a decision. The administration makes a decision again and again and again and again. And yet we're all sitting here saying, oh, you need to be involved, and yet you don't get involved. And they purposefully don't involve you. And so, yes, do I think you should be able to, if you have a 93, get out of it? But here's the bigger question for me. Why was there no conversation? Why was there no communication? Maybe you sit down with the administration and say, I don't know, let's compromise. Maybe it becomes a 95 instead of a 93. Maybe instead of unilateral decisions for our kids, we come to solutions together. We compromise where nobody gets everything that they want. Or do we just decide for our kids and then give them the lip service of, we want you to be involved and have something to say? I want you all to be involved. I want you to have a say. I want you to have agency. It's an important word. It's a word I use with my kids all the time. You have agency. You're your own creatures, and you deserve to have a voice that's actually listened to and not just given lip service.
I want you to have agency too, but I want to give you some credit as well, credit that you deserve. I don't think any of you just cram for your exams. I think what that's saying is you haven't learned anything all year, and I think you deserve more credit than that. So I would just start with that. I don't think all students who take exams are just cramming and not learning anything. I think there have to be some objective measures in society for how things are done. I would add to that by saying that we need to be careful about what the Board of Education's responsibility is in all of these matters versus our trusted and hired administrators, principals, teachers. Maybe they should have more authority to decide what's best for their classroom and for the student and for the individual student. I think the other problem with this type of scenario is it's entirely arbitrary. What if my child or me, if I was back when I was in school, had a 92? Was that not good enough? If I had the 93, I could get exempt, but 92, where do you draw the line? Well, now is it 91? Is it 89? What is it? It's far too arbitrary. So I think I agree with many of the people on the panel. Again, unfortunately for you guys, I think people should take exams. I don't think it's good enough to say that you've done most of the work along the way, and so therefore you don't have to do the rest of the work. I'll go back to the Miami Dolphins in a football game. You can't play 3/4 of a game, right? You have to play all 4 quarters. You know, in golf, I'm not a golfer, but they say, you know, you drive for show, but you putt to win, right? You gotta make the putt, you gotta put it in the hole. And I think it's the same thing with the exams. If you've done great all year long and you've learned the material, the exam should be a piece of cake. It's not that big a deal. I think we stress out about it, I always did. But at the end of the day, if you've done your work, if you've prepared, if our teachers have done their job, the exams are not the issue. Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to question 2. Currently at Brookfield High School, students are required to place all cell phones in a compartment within their classroom. What is your opinion on cell phone policies at Brookfield High School, and how would you plan to incorporate student input in making decisions on policies such as this going forward?
Thanks. Great question. I think there's obviously two parts to this question, so I'll try to address both of them. First, on the cell phone question, I am in complete agreement with the cell phones not being part of the classroom and putting them into a compartment or whatever it is, right? I think they're nothing more than a distraction. They're incredibly powerful tools, but that's not what learning is about. I think learning is about interacting with your fellow students. It's about interacting with the material and interacting with your teachers and those in the room. And I think if you're constantly looking at social media or text messages, or even trying to look up the answers, it's a distraction. You need to be engaged when you're learning. That's the way that you learn the best. And so I'm in favor of this policy. But I think the bigger part of the question is, how do you incorporate student input into these policies? And with that, again, I'm in agreement with many of the members up here tonight. You know, we need to listen to you all. It's your education, it's your future that we're trying to craft, and we need to hear from you. Doesn't mean we're going to listen to everything you say, but I think we want to hear from you. And I think whether it's through focus groups, whether it's through assemblies, whether it's attendance at Board of Education meetings or other forums, social media, as was mentioned before, any ways that we can solicit your input, I think that's a good thing. We always need to be hearing from the students in our schools, and I think that ranges from all grades, not just the high schoolers. But we need to hear what kids need and what they want. This is a modern world. Technology is everywhere, and I think what's important as we're educating you is that you learn how to respect the technology, how to use it, and how to handle it appropriately. And there is a time and a place for everything, and I think that applies to cell phones as well. Thank you.
So the students, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're living through one of the most stressful times in the world. The economy shot, you're concerned about the environment, you're concerned about your mental health, but the cell phones are the problem. Doesn't make sense to me. So then we tell our kids that, well, all of the research says that kids do better when they don't have cell phones in school, so we make them put them in pockets. Yet all of the research also says that starting school at 7:30 in the morning is the absolute worst thing for teenagers. And we turn around and make the school day start earlier. So which is it? Is it that we pick and choose the research, or do we listen? Or are we trying to make things easier for the adults and not better for the students? I think about my kid in middle school last year, and I think about kids and having cell phones. And you expect kids to sit for 7 hours in school next to their friends and not talk with them. Well, maybe they could talk with them at lunch if the kids in the middle school had more than 15 minutes for lunch. It says 30 minutes on the schedule, but they only get 15 minutes, and then they're thrown outside for 15 minutes for recess. It's actually a violation of state law to only have 15 minutes for lunch. But maybe if you guys had more time to interact with each other, maybe they wouldn't want to pull out their cell phones, maybe they wouldn't want to text each other. Then we tell our kids, oh, you need to connect with your friends, you need to connect with people more. But then you can't, because you can't have your own device, because you might text somebody in the middle of the day. You might text a parent in the middle of the day because you're hurting about something, you're concerned about something, somebody's sick. But no, you can't communicate with them because your cell phone is this horrible device. How do I want you involved in policies? Same thing I've talked about the last 2 times I got to talk. We need to make it willingly accessible, not hurdles. Come to a Board of Ed meeting and get to speak at the beginning, not at the end, when you should be home doing homework, or might need to be home doing homework. Why are there no kids here tonight? Make things accessible and make it feel like we want to listen. Thank you.
Well, this is connected to a larger question. We are on the threshold, as if predictions are correct, to the largest technological revolution in the history of man. With the advent of AGI, advanced general intelligence, machines will be able to do much more than any humans can do. And the big challenge we're going to face is how, as humans, do we deal with technology? Do we control it? Do we regulate it? Do we master it? Or does it master us? So the question of the cell phone is within this larger context, and I think steps to regulate and control technology is absolutely essential, including putting cell phones away. But as I say, it's part of a bigger issue, because in schools, more and more, we're going to have to help people learn to work effectively with others in teams. We're going to have to help people become true, relentless pursuits of fact and truth, so that they get to the actual reality of what's happening, not some fake presentation. And we have to help students become really good judges. Wisdom, human wisdom, is going to be an increasingly critical capacity to have over time. And it isn't always in such great supply. So I would say the cell phone issue will be part of a much bigger issue of how, as a society, within schools, without schools, we manage this major technological revolution. Thank you.
So I didn't view the question about the machines coming to take over the world quite yet. I think this is really a simple logistical question, right? Having your cell phone, everybody having their cell phone and using it during class is considered a distractibility problem. And there was a one-size-fits-all that there's a pocket that every classroom has to put it in. And we want to have, autonomy for teachers to create the way they see fit. If you marry those 2 concepts together, each class is different. You have a ceramics class, you have a gym class, you have a math class where you may want to use a calculator. I think students working with the teachers, having an agreement during the class how you handle your cell phone. You either use the pockets, or perhaps you put it in your pocket, under your desk, and use it at the appropriate times. We're trying to help students become independent thinkers, and go from 13 years old to 18 years old, and then graduate and go on into the world. When you go to college, your cell phone's going to be where you want it to be, right? So I think in your individual classrooms, with some degree of a construct of what makes sense for types of classes where the students can input, what makes sense for them in the class. I think that's, having a discussion and having common rules per class makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll share a brief personal experience. So I actually came to the high school a couple of years ago as part of the career fair. I was very nervous to present in front of the students. I put together this, what I thought was a very interesting presentation on my job and the industry I worked in. And I will tell you, the vast majority of students that came were on their cell phones during my presentation. So, it was difficult for me as a presenter to feel engaged and present the material that I had worked on to put together. As a parent, I would support this rule as well. I would like my student kind of focused in class on what the learning material is and what the teacher has to say, and be a participant in the class and not be distracted texting or talking to his friends, which I know is an obvious temptation. I will also share that the rule is no different actually at my work. If you're in a meeting, you have to put your phones down. You have to close your laptops. If you're having a topic of discussion where you need multiple functional input, I think it's just a matter of common respect sometimes. And so I know some rules are, easy to break, and there are a lot of different opinions, but for me, just being in a room, talking about a topic with people that are, looking you in the eyes and you can tell they're paying attention is important. So, thank you.
Again, guys, I'm sorry. As a parent, I'm sending my kid to school for 6.5 hours. I do not want my son on his phone. They're on their Chromebooks in most of their classes. If there's an emergency, they can go to the office and call if they can't get on their cell phone. And it is no different once you guys work. For 8 hours a day, I have no service. If there's an emergency, someone has to call me in line. So I think, putting it in a pocket, I think in high school you guys are allowed to have it at lunch, which is different than it is at the middle school. I think it's really important, that these guidelines are age appropriate, right? So what is allowed at middle school and what's allowed to high school. But I do want to bring up, we don't have a cell phone policy in Brookfield. We don't have a policy yet, right? We have guidelines that we have in our student handbooks, which we expect them to follow. But we are working on a policy coming. There was guidance from the state. We know that our kids are distracted by technology. I know mine aren't the only ones, but when I'm having a conversation, I'm looking at their top of their heads because they're texting or playing a game. It's frustrating. So I can imagine in a classroom when you have 25 children with their heads bent down and they're not paying attention. We're here to learn. So unfortunately, I value your input. I would love to hear student input more often. I don't know if we do it through, the student representative who now has some more, more scope and what she's able to, bring to you and bring back to the board. I think it's really important that we hear, what you guys are feeling, what you think is working, what isn't working. But unfortunately, I think, cell phones in the pocket is a good thing.
So the good thing about this is that we did hear positive feedback from the teachers and the administration and the staff that they were seeing positive results since the rollout of this. So that's a good thing. They noted that in a lot of the climate surveys that we sent out and from the parents as well. So that's a positive. When the initial rollout came, there wasn't a lot of student feedback, which I was disappointed to hear. Like Erin stated, we don't have a cell phone policy. There's language in the handbook, but that needs to be in alignment with any policy that we have. So unfortunately, the question's kind of skewed a little bit because we don't have a policy. But I think that I'm glad this year your voices were heard, and now you're allowed to use your cell phones during ILT, or ELT, I always forget which acronym it is, but so that's good, so it gives you some autonomy back. But I really feel like I'm not opposed to the rollout of this initiative, but I really feel like as an educator myself, the autonomy should really be given to the classroom teacher, and it's really a management issue. If I set my expectations high and I set a level of respect that I expect from my students, then I should be able to carry that on in the classroom. We have this rollout, but there's a lot of inconsistencies. There are students still on their phones, and that's a managerial issue. That's an admin issue. That's still upsetting because some students know what they can do in some classes and can't do in other classes. So it really comes down to giving the autonomy to the teacher who's in charge of the classroom, and to, valuing that respect, not being on your phones when a teacher's speaking or teaching. But I think this goes for everyone. That's not respectful to have your face in the phone, and we can all agree that we're all on our phones too much, not just the students, it's everybody. But like Mr. Briggs said, It's the way our world is going and technology.
All right, a very big thank you to our Board of Education candidates. Next, we'd like to ask the Board of Finance candidates to come up. We're just going to start off with some brief introductions.
Hello, my name is Michael Barnes. I grew up in this area, including working in Brookfield as a teenager. I had a multi-million-dollar manufacturing business here in Brookfield that I moved here 20 years ago, recently sold the bulk of the equity in that. I also managed a condo complex as far as the monetary part of it. I was treasurer for 20 years for a 123-unit condo complex. So I had a lot of experience with very large multi-million-dollar projects in that complex. So one of the things I'd like to say is currently the Board of Finance, unlike many things in politics, actually works pretty well in Brookfield. A lot of that is due to the personnel out there. Both Brianna and Glenn do a great job, as well as the Democrats. And they work very, very well with an excellent Director of Finance in Marcia. So I think there's a couple of big things coming up that we have to look at the Board of Finance. We are over the current debt bubble. We've just started on the downside. And they talked a little bit before, I don't know if you heard, that they were talking about the police station, which is going to cost some money. Community center going to cost some money. Also, the library is considered doing something. And it appears we have a window a few years from now to do something. And I think if we can get it together, we can do something. And on the Board of Finance, since everybody's working well together, we can find a way to get that in and do it well. And I think as far as what we can do for you guys is leave the town in very good financial situation for you, so you don't have ridiculous spending like there was years ago. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brianna Rucco. I'm currently serving on the Board of Finance, and I have since 2019, and I got back on with a vacancy. Thank you so much for having us tonight. We always appreciate it. I know there will be questions, so I'll just talk briefly about myself. I moved to Brookfield in 2006. I raised my son here. He graduated in 2023, and I worked 4 jobs to stay living here because I loved this town so much. As a single parent, I did everything I could to keep my son here. I love the community, I love the people, I love the schools, I loved everything about it. Originally, I thought I'd leave after he got out of high school because I didn't need to be here anymore, but I loved it so much I just can't see living anywhere else. What I do for work is I run motorcycle shops. So I have 3. There's one in New Hampshire, New York, and Connecticut. My role is to make sure all the operations of all 3 locations are running appropriately, to budget, to scope, to spec, to everything. I deal with customer service. I have 60 employees and quite high expectations of me on a daily basis. So I'm used to working under pressure. I work great with others. One of the things that I love the most about being on the Board of Finance is the fantastic people that I serve with. They are a great group of people. And one of the things I pride myself on is something that Steve had mentioned is when I get into office, I work for everyone in the town, for every single person. So that's what I will continue to do and to serve everybody. Thank you so much. And
Hi everyone, thank you for having us, Youth Commission. My name is Rosa Fernandez. I'm running for the Board of Finance because I know that we want to do a lot of things in this town. And I think we can do all of those things with transparency and a lot of good stewardship of our tax dollars. Like many of you, I'm a parent. I have a daughter at the middle school. And I care very deeply about this town and how it grows both in size and opportunity. And it's talking about the opportunity for our youth as well. I want you guys to be able to enjoy all of the various things that this town has to offer, and for many years to come. And so what I want our decisions to be in town governance is to reflect both fiscal responsibility as well as the real needs and wants of the people that live here and that use the various services within the town. In terms of my experience, I have served on the Board of Education for the last 8 years, 2 of which were as chair, 6 years on the Finance Subcommittee, and also 4 of those years as chair of the Finance Subcommittee. And with that experience, I have worked very closely with our Board of Finance and successfully with them. And so I've noticed that what a really good Board of Finance member does is a lot of listening. And especially a really good evaluation process of the professional advice that they're getting from our very skilled town finance director, as you mentioned. And they also value a real balance between all of the competing things that we need and we want in this town. And so I know what the weight of those decisions feels like. I know what the weight of that pressure brings, and so I'm ready to serve again and do that. I think I would focus on 3 main things: transparency, so that every tax dollar is, sorry, my time's up, okay, sorry.
Can you hear me? My name is Kenny Schwartz. I've lived in this town for 40 years. I came from New York City, from a broken home. My parents didn't have any money. I didn't go to school for 2 years. I found a mentor, turned me around, and I think mentoring is something that has to be done for young people. I ended up building a very successful financial company, specialist in mergers and acquisitions. Some of the transactions that we have done, you have touched, all of you, like Costco, Chevron, Calvin Klein. I know a lot about finance because I've been very successful with it. I was asked to give something back to this community. And I was asked to use something that I know so well, which is finance. And the purpose of doing that, not only to give back, but also to make sure that things are run very well. I looked at the finances of the current administration here, and I was very impressed. They're paying down the debt by $8 million a year. They've got a AAA credit rating. They also have been able to finance the school at 2.5%. These are very critical things in terms of providing capital, which is needed on a constant basis to this community. I will serve on this board to give something back, because it's time that I do something with the skill set and what I built from the ground up. It's my turn to give that back to all of you, and also to inspire young people that there is an opportunity for yourself as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now on to our first question. So there have been many discussions in town about how to use the vacant center school site, but many students are concerned about the state of our existing schools. So for example, at Brookfield High School, this might include broken HVAC systems, clocks not working, poor internet, poor cell service, even flooding in the language lab, and out-of-service bathrooms. So what are your priorities for our school buildings that are currently in use?
Well, that's an interesting question, because a lot of these things don't actually have to do with the Board of Finance. One of the things that the Board of Finance has done, and that Marcia has done, is she's moved some of the accounting functions out of the school system. And that's very, very important, because the school board and the school administrations are good at educating. They're not good at taking care of capital materials. They're just not good at it. So I believe that the best way to handle this type of thing is move the capital expenses totally out of the school system, and the maintenance of the school system, the town should consider moving that out of there. But that's not a Board of Finance question. The Board of Finance only has to figure out how to pay for these things.
So as far as that goes, whenever these things come up, as far as paying for them, we will find a way to make sure you guys have decent schools. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't really know where to stand and look at people, so I apologize for my awkwardness because that's like top of the level. So part of what I used to do is I was the chairman of the Capital Committee, and I used to be on the Capital Committee, and a lot of these things at times would come up as part of our capital plan. So it is very important to take care of our schools when it is not in the school budget. If it is in capital, we have a fantastic capital committee now with a great chair, and we go through all the things that aren't working and all the things that need to be fixed. And we try to make a priority for what's most important. And some of them, they start at one, they go all the way down. So when I was on the capital committee, we would go through and look at all those things, and we'd find ways to work them in to take care of our schools. It is important. And to some of what Mike was saying, is some of it is not, we can say to you as Board of Finance, this is your budget. Like the school budget right now is $55 million. So we can say that. We can't tell them exactly how to spend it. But if it comes to a larger capital need, we absolutely can work that into the budget and try to figure it out and spread it out and make it happen. But yes, our biggest priority is taking care of our school systems. Everything, you guys should have top of the line stuff. You should feel good. You shouldn't have to deal with flooding and out of service bathrooms. My son would tell me about it as well when he was there in 2023. And in addition to other town things, we need to keep our town looking beautiful and wonderful. So.
All right, so I will agree with your comment about how this might not be exactly a Board of Finance question, but I am going to address it because it will become something that comes to the Board of Finance. We have actually, for this school alone, $12 million over the next 10 years planned in the beautification of this school. We could probably use more. We could probably use a brand new building, but we have to work within our means and stay realistic, right? But those are some of the things that we have planned over the next 10 years, and I can say that from my experience on the Board of Education. However, there are a number of things that occasionally pop up, right? We need a new floor scrubber, or CLES needs something to plow all the snow off of the brand new stamped concrete sidewalks, right? So how do we pay for that? Well, as a town, we pay for it through capital expenses, or we ask the schools to pay for it within their operating budget. We've been able to manage that really well, and I think we have these things on the horizon, but we also have to think about ways that we can perhaps maybe with a little more detail itemize some of the things that are housed within this school building so that we don't have these pop-up surprises. That's one of the things that I've brought up within the Finance Committee at the Board of Ed. The Board of Ed, if you want to think of it, is kind of like a long-term renter of these buildings. These buildings belong to the town, and the town is responsible to upkeep them, but it's the Board of Ed, really, that is responsible for identifying all of the needs within this building and advocating for them at the town level. So I expect to be a Board of Finance member that is extremely receptive to that, because I do know that these schools need a lot of attention, and that's what I hope to bring.
As someone who's a private investor who runs my own family office, and we look at an opportunity, you have to prioritize and say, what is the most important? What fills in within our budget? What can we afford? And what would be the timeline? I cannot tell you which is the most important, because they're all important. It's someone that's on the Board of Ed, and also someone who has a lot more experience in operating the school, whether it be the superintendent. But it has to be done responsibly. We are in a situation in this country where 70% of people cannot pay their bills and live day to day or check to check. We cannot overspend, raise taxes, and as well, we cannot future ourselves in debt. So it's a very delicate balance that you must look at when you're looking to prioritize which is the most important. I think the school that they built, they did a great job with it, but it's impossible to build a new school. From where I grew up, this is a beautiful school. From what I've seen it, I've used your track to run on. I'm very impressed with your ball fields, but some of these things,
got to be able to fix so people who come here are going to feel good about their school and be proud of it. And that is very important. But you got to live within your means, within your budget, and you have to be able to create a use of proceeds over that timeline.
Okay, as for our final question, even though many students are not voting of voting age, as a member of the Board of Finance, what would you do to include students' input in the budget process? What potential plans of yours would benefit students and young adults?
Well, as far as input in the budget process, usually that starts in the first selectman's office, and the various boards and commissions will submit their budgets to the Board of Finance. We'll look at it, see what we can afford, how we can plan, we don't look to not do things, we look to do things and include things. So usually the first step is to be in touch with those boards and commissions, as was suggested earlier. And also, you could come to Board of Finance meetings, and there are meetings galore during budget season. The selectmen will tell you they spend all their time on budget stuff in the spring, and they will let you know on those meetings. You can hear what's going on, you can hear for the priorities, and you can have your input at those meetings. That's where you have that, and you have input on the Board of Finance. Or you can contact Board of Finance members. All our emails will be up there, they're all up on the website, so that you can have your input. What potential plans? The plan is to not leave you guys in debt. And that's the best thing we can do for you. They're doing a good job now with the planning on the out years. The 10-year plan is a good plan. And as we're planning for all these capital things that come up in the schools and elsewhere, the best we can do for you is leave you a good solid basis so when your kids are here, they'll have a shot.
Okay, so to piggyback on what Mike said, there's several ways to reach the Board of Finance. You can email, there's just a general email that goes to the Secretary of the Board of Finance. We read every email that comes to the Board of Finance, every single one. So that's good. In addition to that, you can show up. We have public comment at the beginning, and we have public comment at the end. And it's good to show up anytime, because sometimes you can bring something to our attention that's not in the budget cycle that is really important, like the scoreboard that we didn't know about that had broke after budget cycle. Those are really important things. So come to the meeting, make your public comment. We're pretty easy. It's a 3-minute, but we always let everybody talk longer. And that it always fosters a great conversation between the boards so that we're able to talk about things, and we want to hear what's going on. We're not there at your school, and some of us don't have kids in the school anymore to come home and report to us, so definitely do that. I love this question about the potential plans with benefit. I think everything that we do to better the town for you guys is a benefit to you. We want you to come back. We want you to raise families here. We want you to love Brookfield. And I think every little thing we do, from the schools to the police station to a community center to the library to the roads to every little thing, that's what we're doing to better you guys, because you're the next generation and we need you to keep coming back so we keep this town as great as it was.
So I'm going to be somewhat repetitive because I think that that is honestly all of our goals here, right? When we are running for public office, we are here putting in an investment into this town because we want to take all the things that work really well and make them even better. And if there's anything that doesn't work, we tweak it, we change it, but we're all here to put in an investment in this town. And that's really, truly for you. We want you to love this town. We want you to use all of our facilities and play sports here and hopefully, bring your kids back here. Of course, I think that is ultimately our goal, is to, how can we take all of the things that we want to do, whether it's new ball fields or extending the greenway, or just beautifying this very building, you know, we can do all of these things. We just have to be prudent about our planning, and I think we can do that. And really focusing on engaging you guys. So that brings me to like the next part of the question is how do we continuously engage you? I know that the Board of Finance in the past, I think maybe had a student representative, and that may have gone away at some point. That could be a potential thing that comes back. But I do think, honestly, you guys are doing the groundwork of hearing the student voices where they're really at during that school day and bringing it to the various town government boards. And so I would encourage you, of course, to continue doing that. I think, you know, getting student input in the budget is maybe there's a way that we can engage you guys directly with maybe putting out some type of communication that makes the budget, which is sometimes this really big, scary thing, really digestible to students. And like, why would I care about this? And why would I care about how much we're spending on paving roads, right? So if we could make something or some sort of communique that's accessible and digestible to students, maybe we can, you know, get some more interest in that process. So we can do that.
My first suggestion is the president of your student body should set up a committee of students who hear your students in school of the issues that you're concerned about. Organize it so you'll be able to present coherently, intelligently, and honestly from your student body to not just the Finance Committee, the Board of Education, the Selectman's Office, of what you, as the student and someone who's here on a daily basis, feel about your education. That is the most important thing, to organize. How to address a benefit, how to address any input, how to have your worth is through that organization. And I think if you do that, you'll be effective, you'll be intelligent, and also you'll be thorough. And that is a skill set as you get older and you decide your path of life will be a valuable lesson for you to learn in whatever you do. Because it's not about how much money you make in this world. You got to wake up every day and you got to be happy. And you've got to believe what you're going to do makes a difference. And also you've got to believe in yourself. So organize, speak to the appropriate committees here, the Selectman's Office, and do it in an intelligent way, and you will be heard.
We would like to say thank you very much to all of our candidates who showed up today, as well as any members of the community who came to listen. An extra special thank you also to the Brookfield Youth Commission students and our adult representatives. They were very good help. We loved hearing all of your commentary, and we're excited to see what comes of it. Thank you.